And so this is the importance of knowing the mind, is because it's knowing the mind that helps us move on to the next stage in meditation, which is called shaping the mind. So when one starts to know the mind, then one sees that there are many different thoughts, many different feelings, emotions, plans, fears, worries, concerns that are coming through the mind. But the Buddha gives us a kind of, what makes his teaching so valuable is that he gives us templates for being able to understand these states of mind, so that we don't just become aware of many thoughts arising in the mind, but we can begin to see what is the nature of these thoughts. And especially the major template that the Buddha gives us is the distinction between, again, it's between unwholesome thoughts and wholesome thoughts. And so the unwholesome thoughts are thoughts which are rooted, especially the Buddha says, thoughts that are rooted in greed, aversion, and ignorance or delusion. So those are the three roots of all the unwholesome states of mind. And from those unwholesome roots, there come out many different branches: restlessness, worry, laziness, anger, envy, jealousy, miserliness, conceit, self-disparagement, competitiveness. I'm sorry, the American Enterprise Institute is not so happy that I'm criticizing competitiveness. Okay, so when we see and understand that these are unwholesome thoughts, then we make the effort to at least to inhibit them and to clear them away. And then at the same time, there come up, sort of swelling up out of the depths of the mind, many wholesome qualities, wholesome states of mind, like faith or confidence, mindfulness, vigor, joy, bliss, loving kindness, compassion, generosity. So when we see these wholesome thoughts, then we can recognize these are good thoughts, thoughts which are to be developed and cultivated and acted upon. So in this way, through the practice of meditation, we come to know the mind and to shape the mind. And even when one is doing, if you're doing a simple practice like mindfulness of breathing, it seems very, very colorless, so you think, what can be so wholesome about just keeping one's attention on the breath? But actually, what one is doing, what is taking place when one is making the effort to keep the attention on the breath or on any other simple object, is that sort of in the depths of the mind, there is this, what I call a substratum of purity, of bliss, of spiritual beauty, which is usually sort of just hidden and concealed by all of the disturbing and distracting thoughts. The Buddha says that the mind, by its essential nature, is luminous or radiant, but that radiance is covered up by the defilements. So as we're cultivating the mind and just even undertaking the simple task of keeping the mind on the breath, one is pushing away or letting settle the unwholesome thoughts and then creating an opening or a space for that luminosity, that spring or fountain of bliss and joy and radiance to come up to the surface of the mind and to develop a power and a kind of healing effect on the whole mind-body complex. Okay, so this is the benefit of knowing the mind through the second stage of Buddhist practice, which is meditation. Then, as I said, in the third stage of Buddhist practice is wisdom. In this case, to develop wisdom, one has to know what I would call the essential nature of the mind. And this means to know that what we call the mind, normally we call the mind, we begin to see is a stream or process of ever-changing mental events which are always arising and passing away. And so now this is not the kind of constant succession of thoughts that happen when the mind is distracted and disturbed, but rather when the mind is concentrated and focused, then one turns the beam of attention on the mind itself, the body and the mind, and one sees that the body is a stream or current of physical processes always arising and passing away, and the mind is also a current or stream of mental processes which are always arising and passing away. So that takes us into what is called the characteristic or mark of anicca, impermanence, that the mind, by its very essential nature, has no substantiality, no permanence, that it's always one occasion of mind arises, remains momentarily, passes away. Another moment of mind arises, stays momentarily, passes away. Another moment arises and passes away. And so one starts to see now into the mind-body process that everything in this process is impermanent, subject to constant change, perishing, breaking up, and vanishing. And with the insight into impermanence, then one sees what I would call the core or essential teaching of the Buddha, that nothing within this complex of body and mind can be taken as a self, as an I, a truly existing core of identity. That what we call I, me, myself is just a convenient designation for an ever-changing process. And so this is the sort of the arising of wisdom, the insight into the impermanent and selfless nature of the body and the mind. And it's when this insight into impermanence and insubstantiality and selflessness is carried to its full conclusion, then there comes the ultimate goal of the Buddha's teaching, which is the akuppā-ceto-vimutti, which is the unshakable liberation of the mind. But even the one who reaches that unshakable liberation of mind, the Arahat, also reflects back and knows his state of mind. He knows, now my mind is liberated and it can never again be defiled.